Hello and welcome back to a very different episode of the TFR podcast. We are here, myself, CJH, and JP, to review the 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix qualifying. We're trying something a bit different this time, where it's not the traditional podcast format where we've seen all the action and we're just discussing it in between the races. We are here discussing it in between qualifying and the race tomorrow because, JP, it is obviously the season finale. It is the big one. There's a lot of hype going into every kind of session, every qualifying, every race with this Abu Dhabi GP. And we do know that it will be Max Verstappen starting on pole position for tomorrow's race with Lando Norris in second and Oscar Piastri in third. How you doing, JP? And are you looking forward to the race tomorrow?
Yeah, surely I'm looking forward to a race tomorrow. Like Max pulling the car on pole is pretty magnificent for him to do it. That was one of his best laps in this year, and obviously Lando in P2 surely, and Oscar in P3 surely he will try to do some move. Otherwise, championship over for Oscar, and also George Russell in P4, which have showed very decent pace in the quali session. So also pretty much looking forward to him.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. With George right there, there has been a bit of talk. Is can he potentially get in play a bit here? And we did see Leclerc do quite well in that qualifying as well. But we're expecting the Ferrari not to necessarily have the race pace to compete with some of those front runners. But the key thing here is Verstappen being on pole. There's a lot of questions, JP. Is he going to play some kind of tricks here, if you like, a bit of, I don't know, some people call it dirty driving. I don't know how you see it, but there's talk of the whole backing up the McLarens into the rest of the pack, particularly obviously Lando Norris, to then potentially allow them to get ahead. What do you think of that tactic? Do you think Max will do it, and do you think he should do it? Where do you stand on it?
I think Max will do it, but not necessarily in the first stint, because uh, the medium tires like drops us crazy. Like Max can do on medium tires around 20 laps, as we can see in FP2. Max did like a super long stints on the medium tires, and it drops up massively after what lap 18 or 17 something. So yeah, and the undercut at that point will be huge. So I'm pretty sure Max doesn't want to put himself into any kind of danger. So I don't think he will actually do it in the first end. But after that, it should be like a medium hard, which I do think Max will do it, and like what Lewis did in 2016. And I think it will work. And I won't call it dirty driving. It just you got a championship on the line. You're not you're not crashing into people, so I don't really call that dirty driving. Just desperate for a championship.
I think that's the thing. We saw Hamilton obviously do this in 2016 with Nico Rosberg, and that was maybe frowned upon more because they were teammates, and there's the whole, should you do that to your teammate? Is that actually a bit unfair to try and win a championship in that way? When we've seen teams try this before, the whole backing up tactic, because at the end of the day, they're rivals. They're all in different teams, so they're against each other, and it's kind of been accepted. It reminds me of races like Singapore and Monaco, where drivers will lead the race but deliberately go slower to back up the pack and allow for them to dictate how things happen. That though is a lot easier to do at Singapore and Monaco. Maybe not so at Abu Dhabi, JP. Is there a potential risk of chaos tomorrow if Verstappen tries this tactic of backing up? Because it is so much easier to overtake if someone like Lando tries a move, Verstappen defends aggressively. This could lead to a collision. I'm thinking of different scenarios here, but it could happen.
Yeah, surely it could happen. We can see from like 2017 Mexico that when championship is on the line, the contenders will tend to boil over. Also on the first lap of 2021, Max goes for a huge dive bomb on Lewis, which will in the end cause some controversies, but that's not the point. Um, sure, if like But the same as for Lando, he only needs to finish P3 and the championship is done. Like he doesn't like necessarily need to win this race. I think he really needs to keep that into his head and the championship will be his. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that one plays out. We were actually all wrong on our predictions in the podcast that went out yesterday because I think we all were saying either Norris or Piastri for pole. So were you surprised to see Verstappen actually take pole, JP? Was that a surprise to you, or did you think that that was building up to that point, with the pace that Verstappen showed earlier on? How did you see that one?
I did not expect it like until about around Q2 where he only used used tires to get through and the pace was fairly decent and fairly close to the McLarens. And at that point, I think like maybe Max got a chance for pole. And when he grabbed out his first lap in Q3, I think it was a 22-2 in the first lap, and base McLarens haven't done a lap. I think about that's it. Like he got the pole. Like there's no chance these two McLarens can snitch it because the way McLaren sets up their car is always tend to they go for more downforce and less top speed, which makes the car easier to drive, maybe less degradation during the race, but it's more hard. It's harder to pull out lap times when you in the qualifying session. You tend to easy to underdrive the car a little bit, which makes it kind of hard for Lando and Oscar to snitch in from Max. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing. It seemed as though Lando was a bit on the back foot throughout that qualifying session, and he kind of started to bring himself back into play at the end, and obviously ended up ahead of Piastri. But there was that lap from Piastri, I think it was in Q2, where he put half a second on Norris, and it was quite a statement, really in that moment of where the two drivers were at. I could see people tuning in on the stream. Be sure to pop in any questions. That's why we're doing this live stream, that you can say your questions to us live as we are recording. So let's see. What have we got? B29 is saying, right, I need you guys to answer. What is the podium and the world champion for tomorrow? So JP, I'll put that straight to you there. What is your podium and world champion looking like now after that qualifying session?
Will say one changes. I won't change. I actually won't change anything rather rather than yesterday. I still think like Russell will go P3, Oscar P2, and Maxwell win, and Maxwell get the championship. I don't know why, but just feel like I just feel like it. Just
Gut feeling.
he, you got. Yeah, I feel like also Oscar's momentum is actually in qualifying. I feel like he's way better than I thought because like last year's quali he was about 3/10 off Lando. Like he was nowhere near. And the race pace, even after like he drops to the back when he recovers the stint, like the lap time was just not looking great. But this time I feel like he kind of has it in his back, and he's more like a calculated driver, and Lando starts to feel a little bit pressure crumbled on himself. So that's my prediction.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, I do think Max will win tomorrow. I mean, I can also see a scenario where he doesn't and he gets involved in a collision or some drama and it
Yeah.
backfires, the whole trying to play tactics. But yeah, I still think Max will win, and then Piastri second, Russell third. I still think that could happen with Norris in fourth because it depends. All of them, they've got their own thing to go for here. The likes of Russell, Leclerc, if you offer them a podium, they're going to take it. There's no way they are going to give that up for Lando to win a championship. Maybe they would. What do you think on that, JP? Do you think that like drivers would give up their position to help
Yeah.
their mate Lando?
So surely no, and also
You think so?
on
Yeah.
my, I don't think anyone will give places to another team's
Mm.
person just to go for their championship. It's just not worth it. And the other thing I want to mention about is Fernando Alonso in P6. So
Yes.
maybe there will be a DRS train again this weekend in Abu Dhabi, as we can see in Qatar.
Well, speaking of which, let's bring up. Excuse the stream looking a bit funny. Let's bring up the results from qualifying on the F1 page here. Let's get to qualifying. So yeah, well, there's your starting grid then on the screen. We don't need any extra F1 stuff on the screen. We'll bring us back up there in the corner. There we are. Okay, so as I was saying, if I can get that to move, there we go. That's probably not going to work, is it? We'll pop it over there. So there, there you have it with our kind of starting grid there. So we've got obviously Verstappen on pole, Norris in second with Piastri in third, but then yeah, the key thing is behind. We've then got obviously Russell, Leclerc, and then Alonso in sixth. Now, what were we thinking about people like Alonso, JP? I mean, that was, I saw the stat, his best qualifying at Abu Dhabi since 2012, which was quite surprising. I mean, is that just the field being close, or was that, an incredible act from Fernando? Because that Aston Martin has been pretty rubbish for quite a while.
I feel like this field definitely getting a bit closer, as we can see from this week's Q2. I think the from first to from round the round P1 to P15, it was round what 3.5 tenths, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly, or yeah, it was like heftily close, and you kind of just need to grab that opportunity in your hand and just do what he does best, just grab all the opportunities, and did it with the P6. And for the race tomorrow, I don't really think Aston will be that quick, but if he's not dropping out of Lando's pit window, Lando may well be in big trouble. Like, as we can see from the path, Fernando will make a hard time for Max. We
absolutely.
already we can bait. Yeah. Also, we can see that on Gabby, so, which is P7. So if
Yeah,
if Max controls the gap between him and Gabby, let's just say Gabby, he's P7 under a pit window. Lando will get into a bit of trouble.
yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, JP. I
Like
think
they,
that,
they won't defend it like it's the last race of their life, but they will definitely go harsher on him than on Max.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing as well there is we've also got we've got Gabby Bortoleto, like you're saying, in seventh. He's got nothing to lose, and actually that's a great position to be starting for him. I mean, shout out to that qualifying performance because that kind of went under the radar, especially to me. Ocon as well in the top 10. That could be a critical session for him because of where Haas are in that constructors battle. Hajar and then Sonoda. Sonoda didn't actually get a proper lap in the end, but we're expecting him to potentially play a part in the race tomorrow, JP. Even though he doesn't necessarily have to pace the front runners, but are we thinking he could maybe put a set of hard tires on at the start, go long, hope for the McLarens to pit early, and then cause a bit of trouble there? If you're viewing it from the Red Bull camp.
Yeah, surely do. Like as we said it from the last podcast, Yuki's pacing at Abu Dhabi is not slow at all. Like I think he got one lap in his Q3 and he got track limit. So I think he did it at around P7 or P6. Like the lap got deleted afterwards. So he definitely got pace in his back. If I was Red Bull, I would do the same as what they did in 2021. They tend to underview the car a little bit and just put on a set of hard tires. Just do the alternative strategy, and the hard tires should work this week's hard tires C3, if I'm correct. I think Ripple. don't necessarily like be really quick on the tire, but it
Yeah.
should keep him within the pack. Um, when the window came, he just need to follow the pack with Gabriel, Esteban, and the Fernandos. If
Mm.
he can follow the pack, I feel like he will give a hard time to Brandon. Yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be one to keep an eye on. That is for sure. Looking through the rest of the order, Ollie Behrman, maybe a bit of a surprise he didn't get into Q3. He was going along very nicely in Q2 and Q1. Well, obviously not in Q2 because he went out in Q2, but at the beginning of Q2, he was looking good. We got Sainz in 12th, Lawson in 13th. That's all fairly normal. Kimi Antonelli, what do you think went wrong with him today? 14th. Really kind of unfortunate, you'd say, because I mean, look at those gaps there from kind of 11th to 14th. There's nothing in it.
yeah, he's tend to a little bit like he's a little bit unlucky today with the car and Abu Dhabi as a track doesn't really suit him that much because you know as I said last time, Kim tend to rotate the car a lot and the track is a lot of off camber on the last sector, which will wear the rear tires too much and overloads it too much, will kind of drops it. Well, Mercedes is a very real limited car itself, so no one just makes it hard for him. As we can see, he drops it. I think turn 14 at the last lap in Q2. Same that George Russell did it in first lap in Q3, but just a just another unlucky day. Just didn't feel the car enough. Maybe there's a little bit more, but it is what it is for him, and hopefully he can make some ground tomorrow.
Speaking of a bad day at the office, we obviously had Lewis Hamilton down there in 16th. Another Q1 exit. That's 3 races in a row now. Lewis Hamilton has been out in the first session of qualifying. What on earth is going on there, JP? Because you can say it's the car, or people may say it's the car, um, or whatever, but that's not good, is it? I mean, that's an awful run of form now. And what is happening with his qualifying pace? I mean, this has been going on for maybe a couple of seasons now, and maybe in the chat, people can put their thoughts on this as well. But what is happening with Hamilton and these Q1 exits here? Because that's really bad to kind of, on a normal track like this, like there's no other kind of factors at play. He can't be getting out qualified like he is.
I'm not really surprised that he got out qualifying by look this much. I'm really just surprised by he got out of got out in Q1. Like it's the third time, three in a row. It's just not good enough for him. He's a seven-time world champion. Of course, he knows how to drive, but you can see the raw pace of him is starting to fade away a little bit. He got out. He got beat by George Russell last year, 15-9 in quali also, like same as this year's look, but it doesn't look that bad last year because he don't. At least he's in Q3 most of the time in last year, but like this year it was pretty horrendous. I believe everyone will agree. He don't like the Ferrari car, obviously, but I don't think Leclerc is happy with it. I don't think. I don't think he is the only one dealing with the car. We can see the car itself has its faults, but Lewis' adaptability should be put in a question mark. As I saw in data today that in 2020, Sebastian Vettel only got out in Q1 once, which is in, to be honest, can't remember which race, but only once. And Fernando Alonso never got out in Q1 in 2014
Mm.
in F14C, which is a very well garbage car. Same as the SF1000. I wouldn't say these two are harder to drive than the SF25. So we may put into a question mark of Lewis' adaptability. I still believe there's something got in him because his upper limit is still there, but just the way he treat with these back cars is kind of not the way we expected him to be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. this is the thing. It's not what we would expect, like you say, and he's got a pretty tough record against Charles Leclerc this year. I think it's now 19-5 in Leclerc's favour, the same as what it was for Russell in 2024.
Yeah,
But there's an article here on the F1 page. So yeah, there's a quote there. I think most of the lap was good enough to get through. I just didn't finish it. He sighed. So like that's the thing. He didn't finish the lap. I mean, what's that all about there? I don't quite understand. They obviously had that crash. He had that crash, sorry, in FP3, which did damage the car a little bit. I think they put a different floor on the bottom of the car, and he lost a few tenths from that as well. Um, but yeah, not really kind of good enough to be honest, in my eyes. Of a driver of that level, and yeah, really disappointing for Hamilton and tomorrow. And yeah, there's a bit more on that on the screen there as Sky decide to chuck a load of adverts on my screen, which we do not want. Right, uh, let's have a look then if there's anything more. There we go. Qualifying head-to-head stats. This was what I was going to be interested in. Thank you, motorsport.com. So what we got here? So this is McLaren head-to-head here. So that's just gaps actually. So it's a bit of an in-depth breakdown. So where's the stats up? There we go. So Norris and Piastri, they were actually 15 all in the end, JP, on qualifying. So dead level between them. I'm not quite sure how that's 15 all because there's only 20 odd races in a season.
maybe it
So
counted sprints.
maybe it does.
Counter sprints like
Yes, that's. I think you're
24
probably
plus
right.
6, yeah,
Mm,
24 plus 6, yeah.
yeah. So 15 all at McLaren. Are you surprised with that, or do you kind of think if someone plucked that to you, do you think that's about right that the McLarens are even?
Yeah, for what I see from this year, like it's about correct. I don't. Obviously, Oscar adapts to this car a bit better than Lando, but Lando just have a little bit more raw pace inside him. So yeah, pretty fair for me here. For me,
This was the Ferrari one we were saying there. So Leclerc in total 23-7 over Hamilton. So again, a pretty hefty difference there. And it's interesting those gaps actually because it shows there that Hamilton at the start of the season was obviously ahead at China in both sessions, the sprint qualifying and the main qualifying. Went on a bad run, and then he was then ahead again at Spain, Canada, and Silverstone, and then again another bad run of being behind, and then he's not been ahead of Leclerc in any qualifying session since the sprint at Kota, and then since then, as you can see there, the gaps have been not much though. To be fair, like looking at that there, even the Qatar stuff, the gap is 4 tenths in the sprint quali, 3 tenths in the main quali, and then 2 tenths in Q1 today. So it's not a lot to be fair. And that's what we were talking about with fine margins. At Red Bull, no surprises here because it was obviously a clean sweep for Verstappen against Liam Lawson earlier in the season. And then it's 26-1 from Verstappen to Sonoda. With Sonoda obviously getting it last time out at the Qatar sprint. Which, you know what? That was a huge shock, that. The fact that Sonoda actually got one. Which I think says a lot. But then over at Mercedes, this is also a bit of one-way traffic. It's 25-5 from Russell to Antonelli, so that one was quite a bit. Again, you can see on the screen there, big races in a row. I think this is almost the worst one. And can you take a wild guess what this is, JP? Unless you're looking at the same screen.
Aston Martin.
You're correct. Lance Stroll only outqualified Alonso once in all qualifying sessions all season, and without sprints, it is 24-0 to Alonso for this season. Stroll was behind. The only time Stroll was ahead of him was the Chinese GP sprint race, right back at the start of the season. Stroll has been behind him right away through the season, and Stroll's actually had the most Q1 knockouts of any driver in 2025. I mean, does that stat surprise JP or not? I mean, I mean, a lot of people give Stroll a tough time. Are you on that same page? Does Stroll deserves to be in F1, or do you think like the criticism is a
From
bit unfair?
raw pace, do you think he's kind of deserved to be in F1? Because like when he got a good car, like in Racing Point in 2020, you can see he can kept up with Checo, like for a bit at least. So you can see there's potential inside him, but the problem is the way he drives is just too special and just doesn't work with this generation of car. So unless next year's car will somehow suited him, I don't, which I don't really think so, because the way he drives the car is a bit, just makes the car a little bit tricky to handle. So yeah,
Yeah, I
he got something, but it will require Adrian Newey to deliver something special for him to perform.
well, who knows if they do create a pretty damn cars in Adrian Newey next year, we might see Stroll right towards the front again, like we saw in 2020 with that Racing Point. So who knows? He could get his last chance at a bit of glory next season. It's crazy to think he could have won a race in that 2020 season, if I'm thinking right. Maybe that Turkish Grand Prix. He could have won that on another day. But moving on though, at Alpine, Pierre Gasly pretty much clean sweeps this. Obviously had a pretty good record against Jack Doohan, and then Franco Colapinto hasn't quite been able to get a hold. Although this is closer than I thought. Without sprints, it's 13.5. That's not as bad as I thought. I thought Colapinto would be quite a bit further off, but he's actually not too bad. And I mean, Colapinto has been behind Gasly since Singapore, but yeah, I didn't think it was too bad. Another interesting one here, Haas. Who do you think is ahead on this one, off the top of your head?
I feel like it's like Lando and Oscar should be about level.
Ooh, not quite. It's Ollie Behrman who's ahead of Ocon, 18 to 12. So does that surprise you?
A bit, kind of, because I can understand like Esteban is a little bit like don't have the momentum at the back of the season, but in my mind, Esteban is always one of the quickest drivers on the grids. Like
Mm,
in my opinion, he's only slower than Lando, Shao, Max, these these top three guys. But other than that, I feel like he is literally the quickest guy on the grid. I feel like just people don't give him the enough credit, and yeah. Also, like he haven't really been the good cars as we can see. Like he only drives Force India, Renault, Alpine, and then Haas. So which is well, there's definitely no top three cars, no Red Bull, no Ferrari, no Mercedes. Which, to be honest, I think he absolutely deserves. Like, I definitely think he deserves the 2020 Mercedes second seat more than Valtteri
really?
at that time. Yeah, because if you remember back in the days, there were rumors about
There
Esteban
was.
going to straight go to Mercedes, but it is what it is now. Oli, obviously, he will go to Ferrari someday in the future. Not sure who see he will take on Lewis or Shao, maybe even. Maybe Shao will go to Aston Martin. Who knows? Like, but we all know Oli Behrman will be in a top three team, no matter when. So, yeah, I don't think Esteban should be too sad about his stats, as we can basically all think Oli Behrman is a world champion material. Like at least he's a world champion material. Maybe not have a world champion, but at least he's a material.
Ollie Behrman, world champion material. I like the sound of that. I mean, you look at this here. He was out qualifying Ocon since the Dutch Grand Prix all the way until the Vegas Grand Prix, and that Vegas quality before today was the only time Ocon's actually got the better of him since that summer break. So yeah, Behrman had a bit of an iffy start to the season, but has finished it really well, and yeah, has very much kind of cemented himself in F1. Over at RB, again, this one I thought would be a little bit closer. For some reason, I don't know why I think this actually, but Isaac Hadjar 21-6 ahead of Liam Lawson. So Liam Lawson not being able to get ahead of Hadjar, but then that explains why Red Bull have made the decision of giving Hadjar that Red Bull seat for next year, and then Lawson remains in the RB alongside Arvid Lindblad. Over at Williams, any guess on this one? Where how this one is?
Mm, I think Science will get ahead for a little bit, maybe like 16, 14, 17, 13, something
Not
like that.
far off. It's Sainz 17 to Albon 12. Sainz was actually behind a lot at the start of the season, actually. As you can see on the screen there was quite a few, but at the first four qualies, but then towards the back end of the season, really started to click into gear. It's really weird what's happened with Albon. I mean, again, not a great day in qualifying, and I think the pressure will be on him next season, GP. If Albon keeps getting beaten by Sainz like this, and then the Williams is actually better next season as well, how long do we get to the point where it's like, are they equal drivers anymore? I mean, I don't want to be too reactionary, but Sainz does have two podiums this season.
I do believe if like Alex doesn't perform well for another season, I won't be surprised by this. Like,
Mm,
but I do feel like if he don't perform well next season, the season after he will be like pretty shafted. Surely Science will be the number one driver, and as we know, the momentum will just declines, and there will eventually be some driver to take his place, like Luke Browning or anyone like that. Yeah.
interesting, interesting. That'll be one to keep an eye on. Over at Sauber, that is all level actually, 15 all and 12 all without the sprints. Perfectly matched, Hulkenberg and Bortoleto. You know what? What a great effort from Bortoleto in his first season of F1, equaling Hulkenberg in qualifying head to head. After the whole season, I think that's a pretty damn good effort. I don't know if you agree, JP, but Gabby Bortoleto doing that, I think, is a statement that he will be here for quite a long time in F1. I mean, you say Ollie Behrman strikes you as F1, champion potential. Does Bortoleto strike the same thing?
Sadly, no. Actually,
Oh,
I do feel like Gabby did a excellent job this year. There's no denying for that. He tied on Nico Hulkenberg level. Nico Hulkenberg in his rookie season is no easy thing to do. We all know how fast Nico as a driver is. Maybe he just doesn't have the luck or something like that. But we basically can all agree on like Nico Hulkenberg is an extremely fast driver, and Gabby managed to level him in his first this year. So not a bad job. But the thing is that different to Isaac or Keme or Ollie, I don't really see a blimp of outshine for me on Gabby. Like
right.
you can't really remember a lap that really struck your mind when you think of Gabby. Like you can't remember like as Isaac's P3 in Holland, Kimi's pole in Miami, Ollie's performance in Brazil quali. Like these are all really like performance what like struck your mind immediately. But I kind of can't find it on Gabby, so that's why it's made a little bit doubt on me for him. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I think it'll be fascinating to see what they'll be like next year under the kind of Audi ownership, and whether that team will go up the order or if they'll slip further down, because it's no easy thing for Audi to come in and be a works team as well. But it also enables the potential that they could be amazing. They could genuinely be right up at the very front if they get all things working right. But that's going to be everything, though, for this live podcast. Thank you, JP, for joining me on this slightly different episode. And if you've enjoyed this, do let us know in the chat and comment on this podcast and like the video, etc., etc. If you want to see more of this, we're going to do it again tomorrow for the race. And there's going to be a heck of a lot to talk about because we will have a new champion crowned, and it'll either be the reigning champion or it'll either be one of those McLaren drivers. And let's hope we have a fascinating race in store. The grid is set, and we have all the ingredients ready for an exciting race tomorrow. But we will just see who will be champion for 2025 in F1. We will find out tomorrow.